What I'm about to say might be a little controversial because it goes against social norms and normal wisdom, but I think it needs to change. I think it's really important that we completely invert the practice that we do not talk about religion or politics in polite company. Religiousness is a factor in all the leaders that support the current regime. The Republican Party is chock full of religious people that are dangerous. They're a threat to all of us. And that's not a joke. They're made up of Christian nationalists, evangelical Christians, LDS, Opus Dei, and groups are all part of this effort to collapse our society and reform it in their image of a formal Christian nation with biblical law and governance. If you want to know what I'm talking about here, take a look at Texas. Anytime there are cases that involve religion and the public sector, that's the proving ground. So, and then politics. So that is definitely a factor, and the both sidesism arguments got us to where we are today. The right wing politics of all stripes got us here. Liberals, neoliberals, conservatives, neoconservatives, fascists, neo fascists all got us to where we are. There is no leftist group in this country with any power to move the needle. There are a lot of people that have a voice, but power is a different thing. We don't have that. The United States is a right wing country from top to bottom. If you learn what leftists actually sound like, if you see them pop up in the public, in the media space that is controlled by right wing billionaires, watch what happens when they talk about policies that poll pretty well with the American people, things like universal health care, Medicare for all. But you watch the opposition that those people get. You'll hear arguments like, how are you going to pay for it? Right? When the reality is, Medicare for all, a universal health care program, would cost about $2 trillion per year less than our current system, and it would serve more people, not less, and we would get higher quality of care and better outcomes. But we don't get that. We have to pay for this private system that serves wealthy people who want to skim off the top and denies care, and we get worse outcomes, and it gets worse every single year. So I want to say something about that. So there are leftist advocacy groups organizing and via discussion online, but our fractionalizing erodes our ability to fight back. So we need to identify a core set of principles that we are advocating for that must change in order to achieve our other objectives that are supposed to be protected by the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and the principle of equal justice under the law. So here's my suggestion for a core framework of principles. We need to draw attention to what our opposition appears most afraid we will do. So here's some ideas. Stack the Supreme Court. So the number of justices that we should add probably needs some consensus, and we can talk about that. That's up for debate. Introduce ethics rules with teeth for the Supreme Court. Overturn Citizens United. Publicly fund all elections. Introduce ranked choice voting in local and state elections, then federalize them. Make voting days a holiday. Expand how people can vote safely and securely via early voting. I had an idea for mobile buses set up for this purpose for remote areas, for example, and for profit models for the programs that I'm about to talk about. Universal health care. I think we should make healthcare a human right. Universal child care. I think high quality child care should be a right. Universal free education, K through grad school and post grad school. Make education a right and promote it as a public good, because it is. Universal free nutrition programs, food, shelter, health, and fitness education all should be a right for all people. Universal free leisure and community connection guarantee via public programs to reform and rebuild our communities. I think leisure time is essential to health, and it increases opportunities for meaningful connections and inclusion. I think one of the things that has messed us up as a society is it's been too easy to divide us up. And a lot of people live out there on the fringes, and they have people talking to them that are not really having their best interest in mind. I don't think anybody should be left out. So that's where I'm coming from with that. Universal free access to public utilities, ban private ownership of utilities necessary for the public, So that's like power and cell phone service and things like that, water, gas. I don't think these things should be for profit. I think they should be delivered to us at cost and then plus a small amount for updating and safety and things like that. Universal and free access to trade schools, universal free access to the right to look and feel your best and live in a space that fits you and your family's needs. So I had an idea for this a little while ago, and I like it. I wonder what other people might think. So that would be things like having access to a personal stylist, wellness coach, interior designer, having professional builders and landscapers. This would also focus on sustainable living initiatives, being mindful of products that are high quality, are environmentally friendly, and their end stage is considered. So this would create lots of jobs that are beneficial for all of us and our big home, the planet. Universal right to be informed. So essentially, which is a part of democracy is to have a well-informed populace. Having too much disinformation and misinformation out there, having people like Rupert Murdoch, who came from Australia and set up media companies in the Western nations like the UK and here, have eroded our politics, our discourse, and have divided this nation up into this false left and right dynamic, Democrats and Republicans who are both right wing. And we're not even having the conversations that I want to have. It's all a distraction and doesn't serve any of our interests. So I don't want people like Rupert Murdoch to be able to own media. I don't want people like Mark Zuckerberg to own media, or Elon Musk. I don't, or Jeff Bezos to be able to have like his own newspaper. I think that's some BS. That's just me. Universal early retirement with dignity. So, like, depending on your job, if you're working a physical job all your life, I think it's a stretch to make it to even 55 years old, let alone 65 or 67 or what have you. So, depending on your work, depending on what you're doing and you want to retire early, I think you should be able to do that and retire with dignity. So, this would be between 55 and 60 plus years old, depending on their individual preferences and needs. And for profit claims and purchases of public lands and spaces. I think we need to have the public commons back. I think it's really frustrating the fact that like corporations and moneyed interests get to buy up everything and then they get to say who gets to use it and who doesn't. I think it's disturbing to me that if you're like homeless and you don't have any money and you are in the city somewhere, good luck finding a public restroom. Most of the time it's for paying customers. So how is that giving somebody dignity or respect and telling them if you don't have any money, you don't even have a right to go to the bathroom for free? And then they wonder why people pee and poop in the streets because they don't have anywhere free to go. Doesn't make any sense. So, end crime porn. I like this one. The fear mongering arm of the right wing and the media machine they own is responsible for creating a lot of panic about crime when a lot of times, like the stats are showing that crime is going down. They're not actually having a conversation about the main source of crime, which is wealth inequality. If you talk about crime, that should go hand in hand with, man, I guess maybe we should probably raise taxes on the wealthy people because we don't have enough money to fund the programs that we need to help the people get a home so they're not homeless. If they have mental health issues, they need to be able to get that for free. If they have any issues with drug use, which a lot of times that's because people are not doing well, they don't have the things that they need in life, and they turn to drugs. When people are struggling, they do drugs. So that's just that. Get them drug treatment. Drug treatment shouldn't cost you an arm and a leg if you need it. And you need the proper aftercare too. So we can solve these problems, and they have elsewhere in countries that don't have anywhere near as much money and resources as we do. So we shouldn't be doing crime porn. We should be probably blasting the people that are contributing to crime, which is the people that are taking most of the money and they're not giving back to the community to solve the problems. People that are in political office that are not solving the problems and they talk about things that we know are not solutions, they should be outcasts and they should be thrown out of office. So you might ask who's going to fund all this? I say, well, the very people who are responsible for taking it away from us and also us. We can pay taxes. It's just, I don't think Work should be taxed anywhere near as much as wealth should. The wealthy make passive money, so I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't tax their passive income more. And I think we do have to deal with the vast wealth accumulation and the harms that it does to society. It basically allowed one billionaire to buy an election. I think that's too much. I think that's too much money and power. I think, just putting it out there. I think that's too much. So the first step to all this is to beat back fascism globally, but we can talk and chew gum at the same time. Let's keep doing these things while we do effective advocacy and peaceful resistance. Let's make sure we undermine the tools of fascists and their collaborators. Let's have conversations and create media about these topics below. So, for example, how authoritarian parenting practices harm kids in society, which are common in religious teaching, parents, schools, and many churches. And its effect on our criminal justice system with no sign of effectiveness when we should be focused on wealth inequality, tax law reform, community service programs, harm reduction programs, and increasing community connection. How the right talks about women as a binary, I think that's just stupid and it's not true. And science tells them that they're wrong, but they're not good with understanding that they're wrong. They just double, triple, quadruple, keep adding duples down, and leads to brain drain and a less prepared, future ready populace. I'm sorry. Let's go back to that one. How the right talks about women and men as a binary, a rigid set of social norms and harms men and women. People are happiest when they live and love as their authentic selves. That's what I wanted to say. How the right pushes anti-intellectualism, jeopardizing our public health system, and leads to brain drain and a less prepared, future ready populace. How the right pushes sorry, I did that again. How the right rewrites history to pretend whites are superior, undermines the celebration of the accomplishments of non-whites and women. We all benefit from celebrating all of us. The opportunity cost of what the right pushes for and tricks and distracts us into talking about when we could solve problems and improve the lives of billions with any or all of the platforms that I'm suggesting. So maybe we need a simpler version. Maybe parts of this will work. Maybe the whole picture is a good thing. I'm interested in what you guys think, but we always should be talking about what is possible because it is. It's just we have to have the will to push for it. This is what it sounds like to talk about things from a leftist perspective. This isn't fairy tale wishes. It's just common sense solutions that other countries have done, either like many of these things have been done in parts of them. Some have done more comprehensively. I think a lot of things are possible if we can get the wealthy to pay their fair share. Having more IRS agents, I think, was part of what Biden had planned to do, to go after them, because it pays more than pays for itself to fund going after tax cheats that are wealthy. It's harder to get them, but once you get them, you get a lot of money back. Versus how it works now, they just go after people that don't have a lot of money and the ability to fight back. And a lot of times they're not actually really cheating that much. They might have made some mistakes in most cases. Anyway, those are just some of my thoughts on how we can make a better society for all of us that includes all of us. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, what religion you have or don't have, whether you identify as on the blue team or the red team. I want you to have a better life. And people on the left, like me, that's what we want. Egalitarianism means doing the most good and the least harm for all people. So we're not the crazy radicals that you think we are, that the right paints us as. They never talk to us. We're never part of those conversations. They tell us who we are, and they're lying. That's just reality. All right, take care, guys.